Good Monday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns have until tomorrow at 4 o'clock to get down to the 53-man roster limit, and then they can make some moves and acquire and work that back end of the roster. The Browns did make a few moves today, though, getting down to 73. And here's a look at what they have done. Defensive tackle Glenn Logan, Javonte Moffitt, Ben Petrula, wide receiver Jamarcus Bradley, Curtis Weaver, and they also terminated the contract of Javon Wims. Also placed Chris Odom on the season-ending IR. He tore his ACL. Let's welcome in Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Fred, none of those surprising, even a little bit. What are some of the moves that you think are kind of tough as they look forward? That means 20 more guys got to go from the roster to get down to 53.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me. It's always, looks when you go from 80 to 53 that it's 27 moves, but then you look at the other way that you can bring 16 back on the practice squad, so you can in effect have 69 of your 80, and they'll try to get all the guys back from the practice squad, but they could be claimed elsewhere. I wasn't surprised by any of these. I'll say at least I'm 7 for 7 so far. I have my predicted 53-man roster up on the OBR.com right now on the front page. It's a free article. But with that being said, I think the biggest decisions will be, what do you do with Dearness Johnson? Do you keep him and pay him $2.4 million, or do you try to trade him and get a position of need? Maybe talk to a team that has a surplus of wide receivers that is thinking of cutting a wide receiver, and you're in effect trading salaries, and then both teams are filling a need without going through the waiver process, because you probably wouldn't get who you want if you have to try to claim them on waivers. The other one is tight end. You have two worthy tight ends. Do you keep a third just to keep, or do you add one on the waiver wire? And I'm including Johnny Stanton. He's the only fullback, but they have him listed as a tight end. So what do you do there? And then at safety, did D'Anthony Bell do enough to win the fourth safety spot over Richard LeCounte, or do you keep them both, fourth and fifth?
Yeah, again, those all make sense, and it's going to be real interesting to see what the Browns can do relative to the back end of that roster to try to improve the wide receiver group. This one's from CBS Sports, NFL preseason finales. One takeaway from each and every team. For the Browns, offense could have major hiccups, not just because Deshaun Watson is suspended, but because Jacoby Brissett has yet to take any live game reps with his full first-team lineup. His debut, their preseason finale, was spotty. And that's fair. That's kind of what established teams do, though. They don't think that giving the guys like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who take a pounding, the reps are worth it. What were your takeaways from that final preseason game, Fred?
Well, that's a big factor. You take Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Amari Cooper, and Joe Bitonio out of the lineup. That kind of is four of your biggest cogs. But yeah, they're pretty vanilla. I think the biggest thing is it's hard to gauge Jacoby Brissett, because the first play, you do an easy out to the sideline with Anthony Schwartz. He drops the ball, and that puts you behind the chains. And then, you really couldn't get into a rhythm. He had another drop, on a play. And some of those things kind of sabotage your, any momentum or any rhythm you're going to get into. So with that being said, I think it is what it is with Brissett. They're going to lean on Chubb and Hunt behind that offensive line and try to dink and dunk with the tight ends, and move the ball, move the chains, on the ground and so forth. More of a game management style is the way I see it, there. But as far as the first game, I don't read a lot into it. They gave him 6 drives. He didn't put up any points until the last one. And even, the 2 field goal attempts, I think one was 58 yards, one was 57 yards. So the good news there is they feel confident. If they get across midfield, they have a kicker, they can attempt field goals. They wouldn't have even tried those in the past. So that gives you another weapon. But as far as, the offense was pretty shoddy. And I expect, to pick up a notch when it counts on September 11th.
Yeah, one of the things that concerned me, and it kind of goes into what you were saying, when you're going to run and you're going to throw underneath like Brissett normally does, the dinking and dunking, there were 2 instances on those drives where wide receivers ran comeback routes and came up a yard short. You can't. That's on the wide receiver. It's not on Jacoby Brissett. If it's 3rd and 7, the wide receiver or the tight end needs to make sure they're running a 7-yard pattern that is coming back to where the first down marker is. 2 of those 6 drives, the wide receiver messed up and ran a route a yard shorter that led to a punt.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been, we've seen that here in Cleveland for a long time. The old joke about Dennis Northcutt on 3rd and 5, run a 4-yard route. And I think that's a valid point. And that's some of the younger guys. You would hope Amari Cooper, who's supposed to be one of the best route runners in the NFL, knows, where the chains are. And that's where you're leaning on Harrison Bryant, David Njoku, and even Donovan Peoples-Jones to get the first down, because a defense will see that, and obviously let you catch the ball short of the chains. And they definitely, you have to put yourself in a position to get the first down. And again, that's why we're talking so much about the wide receivers, because there's a lot of question marks that there's a reason they're letting you catch it in front of the first down marker. You got to get behind the first down marker, and you got to get yourself open.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. All right, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about one of those wide receivers, second-year guy, Anthony Schwartz.
Yes, Dave, this is Cassius, the quintessential Cleveland Browns fan. I'm calling you after this, watching the Browns preseason game. I'm going to say that I'm probably like most of Cleveland Browns fans. We want Anthony Schwartz to get waived. He's useless. He's like someone that's gonna constantly let you down. We might as well give that roster spot to someone else. Also, Dave, I'm gonna make a bold prediction. By the beginning of next season, Anthony Schwartz nor Stefanski will be with the Browns anymore. Kevin Stefanski is just ABC. He's nothing special as a coach. He's like someone who is very, very intelligent but not smart. Tell me what you think about Stefanski's chances of making it past this year. I don't believe he'll be there. Anyway, no matter what, I support these Cleveland Browns. Let's go.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Cassius, I would not cut Anthony Schwartz. You do need to see more production out of him. He's got to stop dropping the ball. I think you want to move him back and try to work with him. He's a guy that was a track guy, Fred. He grew up as a track guy, so you're trying to develop the football skills. He's fast. You can't teach that. You can't develop that. He has that. They got to make it translate to football. Kevin Stefanski had one really good year. Last year, not so much. I don't think he's anywhere near the hot seat, but if things don't go well this year, he might be.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree a little with the caller on the Schwartz, because he was a 3rd-round pick. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt, and the 4.2 speed is also going to get you, the benefit of the doubt. He is 21 years old, and as you said, hasn't played a lot of football. He had a little history of that at Auburn, but he got drafted in the 3rd round because he had 4.2 speed. The difference, though, in his speed, as you said, is track speed. And he doesn't have that, I don't know if it's called quick twitch, whatever it is, that the quick, like you see in Tyreek Hill, who has that 4.2 speed. They try to run him on those sweeps. They tried it last week against the Eagles, and they cut him off on the angles. So he's got to develop that more. He definitely is somebody that I think you would play David Bell as a rookie over him. and maybe slide him down until he gets the confidence back. I think it's a confidence factor. Last year, he got knocked really hard against the Patriots and had a concussion, missed 3 or 4 games. And I think that's still in his mind. And I think that he's got to get that confidence back, that he's going to get hit. You got to hang on to the ball anyway. So he is 21. He turns 22 on the 5th of September. So you got to give him a little more time. As far as Kevin Stefanski, I do not think that he's on the hot seat. I think he's been dealt a blow. When you traded Baker Mayfield, who is better than Jacoby Brissett. So you're playing with a quarterback who's not as good as what you had last year. And your franchise quarterback is out for almost 2/3 of the season. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he does have to play to the strengths of what he has. And I think the strengths are Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, find a way to use both of them, at the same time, even if they're decoys, use that running game effectively, and then put Jacoby Brissett in positions to be successful, whether that be a lot of tight end screens, short curls, and not ask him to do more than what he can do. So I do think Stefanski gets on him to make it work with Jacoby Brissett. But, I do think that he and Andrew Berry are on the same page. And I do think this front office thinks alike. They were all in on it to make the move. And I think they've already, knew that this year might be like this. They didn't know the suspension of Watson. And so they're dealt with the cards they have. I do agree a little bit with why fans think the play calling, but I changed my thinking when some of our film analysts at the OBR showed me film, and they are 100% behind Stefanski's play calling, showing where Mayfield last year missed wide open receivers and did not go to the guy he was supposed to. And partly the reason they made a change, but, so I do, see that I'm going to give Stefanski the benefit of the doubt and see how he does with what he has this year.
Agree with you wholeheartedly in terms of what you said relative to Stefanski, as well as, kind of the hand he has been dealt. All right, Fred Greetham and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a look at some wide receivers that are becoming available. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Fred Greetham from the Orange and Brown Report. He's the senior analyst for the OBR. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns preseason.
Hey, I love the show. Big Browns fan. This is Brian calling from Hilliard. I just wanted to say, when the Eagles media team wanted to take that shot about how bad Cleveland was, And if they think about it, Cleveland was only two missed field goals away from an undefeated preseason. And Cade York's going to be a star. I mean, can't be perfect all the time, but he's going to be great. So I'm not worried about them two little losses. We've got good depth, and I hope we take off in week 1. Go Browns.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Fred, we talked a little bit about Fred Greetham. It's hard. Don't get too caught up in preseasons. The one thing I do know is when the Browns were 0-16, they were unbeaten in the preseason. So that's the drastic difference right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Fred, Hugh Jackson thought you could turn the culture around by winning the preseason. I think they went 1-31 those 2 years. Yeah, I mean, they've shown they have a weapon in the kicker, Cade York. He can, you can get across midfield and you have a chance to kick a field goal most times. But preseason, if that could almost look the other way. If you really look at it that way, Justin Fields, the starters or the frontline guys for the Bears sliced and diced the Browns defense, 21 points. And so you hope it isn't that way. They were missing their pass rush and so forth. So I don't put any stock into it at all. But, now where they're at, it's time to play for keeps. Now they have other things. They have to have a defense that's ready to go from day one to keep them in games. And then you have to have an offense that can put up points, and whether it be field goals or touchdowns, but you got to move the ball and keep the ball away from the opponent.
All right, so let's take a look at this. This from NFL Rumors. 49ers are expected to release Jimmy Garoppolo if a trade cannot be facilitated by Tuesday. That being tomorrow. And the reason for that is he hasn't practiced with him. He hasn't been in meetings. He has above it's like a $25 million cap hit. They have until the first game to release him. The Saturday before it, that roster, that salary doesn't become guaranteed until week 1. If he is released, do the Browns look into some incentive-laden deal where, you can get Jimmy Garoppolo and bring him in here, do you think?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm not as high on Jimmy Garoppolo as maybe a lot of the fans are, but yeah, the reason he won't get traded because he has a $25 million deal and a team trades for him, they have to assume that unless a deal is worked out like the Browns did with Baker Mayfield, where, the Browns ended up paying $10.5 million of his $18 million deal, and he restructured it where the Panthers didn't have to pay as much. So whether he agrees to that, I don't know. I don't know why he would want to come to the Browns is the other thing. If he is cut and he's a free agent, so there is no salary restrictions, why would he want to come to a team where he has an 11 games and then he's going to be replaced? He wants his next chance to be the long-term answer. I would think he would choose more like Seattle or some place where he has a chance to win the job for the future. So I do not see Garoppolo coming to Cleveland as a free agent. If the Browns want him, they're going to have to trade for him. And I would think, like you said, they would have to have a deal worked out ahead of time because they are not going to take on a $25 million deal because they're also paying Mayfield $10 million and they're paying Watson $45 million and they're paying Brissett $5 million. So, you can add that up. That's a lot of money to pay for the quarterback. Plus, I think they feel they're just as good with Brissett for 11 games than they are for Garoppolo, whether you agree with that or not. You will see if they go after him, but I doubt if they will trade for him.
All right, here is a look at some of the wide receivers from various sources. So NFL Rumors again. Panthers, Cowboys, Browns, and Ravens have made calls to the Jets regarding a trade for wide receiver Denzel Mims, who had a really good preseason game this weekend as well, over 100 yards receiving. Also, Giants have gotten trade inquiries for wide receiver Darius Slayton per a source. It's another name to watch this week. That one's from Adam Schefter. Then these are receivers who were cut in the interim, the early cuts that teams have made. So you see Auden Tate and Geronimo Allison for the Falcons. The Texans have cut Davion Davis, who was here with the Browns in Kevin Stefanski's first year. Chad Beebe as well. And then the Jaguars, former first-round pick Laquan Treadwell and Marvin Hall, who was actually here for a brief time. I believe it was last year. Any of those guys intrigue you enough that you think they could help?
Well, I have heard that they are poking around at a couple guys. I think Denzel Mims is worth looking at, and Darius Slayton as well. Again, if there's somebody that you're looking to cut and they have a need or feel they have a need, at running back, would they be interested in a swap for one of the running backs like Dearness Johnson, or would it just be a straight for a draft choice? If they're going to let the guy go, they'd probably take a 6th, 7th round draft choice for it. So there you assure yourself, if you like the guy and he's an upgrade of what you have, yeah, I would make the trade. If you want to pick up a guy and, on waivers, you mentioned Davion Davis. They liked him and they let him go. They wanted him to come back, but he got the offer and went to the Texans last year, I believe it was. And so he might be a guy that Andrew Berry has on the radar, but he might not want to come back to the Browns. Who knows? When they're free, they have the opportunity to go where they want. So the other one, you have a guy like Beasley sitting out there, I think is still a free agent. Maybe you make a call to him, see if he's interested. But all being said and done, I think he's going to be working that heavy. And I think for sure, if you're going to trade a guy, or if you're going to cut a guy, why wouldn't you try to move him to a piece that you could use help at?
Yeah, without question. Fred Greetham, Orange and Brown Report senior analyst, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Fred.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Thanks for having me.
All right, Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Make sure you read him. He's got his roster projection up there. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Tyvis Powell from the Browns Radio Network. We continue talking Browns here on the eve of Cutdown Day. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns quarterback room.
Hey, Dave. Love the show. Frank from Cleveland. I just want to thank you and all your guests for the inside knowledge on the Browns. But my depth chart for the quarterback group right now is Dodds, Rosen, Brissett. He shows no emotion out there. Thank you for taking my call, Dave.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Tyvis Powell from the Browns Radio Network, a guy who has played in the league. Tyvis, I get why people want to see more from the quarterback. You can't really judge. As a guy who played in the NFL, what is the difference between preseason and regular season?
Well, the preseason is very vanilla. All off season, you're working on something to get better at. And then as the regular season comes, you better have what you're going to do down pat. Your technique has to be crisp because everything matters. But the preseason is all about trying new things if you're a veteran. If you're one of those guys that's on the bubble or uncertain about your future, then it's your Super Bowl every week. You're going out there trying to make plays.
Yeah, the other thing is, people were not happy with the way Jacoby Brissett played. Was it just me, or did it kind of look to you like they were trying to get the ball in Anthony Schwartz's hands to have him have some success? I mean, it really looked like they were featuring him early.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony Schwartz is one of those. He's the guy that's going to scare defenses, with his world-class speed. That's the only thing that you have that's really going to threaten defenses deep. So I think what they were trying to do was get his confidence back by getting him the ball and trying to make him make plays. But unfortunately, he kept dropping them. But I'm sure that during the weeks of practice, they've seen him catch the ball consistently. So I think that's probably why it's so hard for them to give up on him, because he's shown it before. He just got to translate it to the game.
Yep, without question. All right, this is from ESPN's Get Up. Dan Orlowski on where Jimmy Garoppolo fits best. Again, it's likely that Jimmy Garoppolo will get released as early as tomorrow by the 49ers. Here's where Dan Orlowski thinks he fits best.
So the two teams correlated would be the Seattle Seahawks and the Cleveland Browns.
Correct.
I do not believe that Jimmy Garoppolo makes them a significantly better football team.
The Browns?
Correct. Than the options that they have now, given what it would cost to acquire him. The Browns, Jacoby Brissett is going to be just fine with the Browns. Jimmy Garoppolo, just to put context, good player. Last year, with one of the, if not the best play callers in football, one of the, if not the best run games in football, the best tight end in football, and the best offensive weapon in football, had 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Okay, the year they went to the Super Bowl, 27 touchdowns, 13 picks, with, again, all those best pieces. Cleveland doesn't have that. Seattle doesn't have that. So if you're those two organizations, do you sit there and say, that guy is the difference maker between us getting into the playoffs and not? The answer is no.
Tyvis, the one thing I would say is the Browns' running game is probably better than the 49ers, especially this year, because that line is a little bit of a mess. But to his point, I think the Browns probably feel the same way. Is your guess that the Browns don't think Jimmy Garoppolo makes them significantly better than Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think, first of all, you have to see what you got in Jacoby Brissett. If everybody remembers, back when Andrew Luck retired and Jacoby Brissett just immediately became the starter for the Colts, I mean, he had less weapons than he will have in Cleveland next year, and he was still able to win games. So I think that's kind of why they went after him to begin with, because they knew Deshaun Watson was going to receive some type of suspension, and they needed a guy who could go in there and get things done. And when you think about Jacoby Brissett, this is a guy, after watching him in this final preseason game, the questions that I had was, does he have velocity on the ball? Does he have zip on his ball? And he answered those questions. I mean, he took a deep shot to Schwartz, which was a good throw. He was zipping them in between defenders. So I think that seeing that it made me very confident that he can at least get things done. Now, granted, they will be leaning heavily on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but the play action should open up. That's how Kevin Stefanski does his pass plays anyways. He wants to use play action, and I think he'll have a great connection of getting it to Cooper, Njoku, and DPJ, and David Bell. I think those will be the key guys. If Anthony Schwartz can get the end around, you have to get him on some reverses like he did in college. Or maybe, one of these days he will catch on and be able to catch those deep balls. But after watching this offense, I'm confident that Kevin Stefanski will put him in situations that he can excel in.
So this is from Doug Poundaley. 3 offensive players who shined in the preseason. Number 3, one of the wide receivers you mentioned, David Bell, kind of eased into it after being banged up a little bit in camp. Number 2, Josh Dobbs. And number 1, they go with the kicker, Cade York. Everybody loves the kicker that can hit the 50-plus yarders. That is going to be a weapon. When you look at it, how much do you think the Browns are expecting David Bell to hit the ground and get right after it as that number 3 wide receiver?
Well, I think they'll be featuring him a lot this year. You got to remember that this franchise moved on from Jarvis Landry because they have faith in David Bell. So I think he has to be able to pick it up. And we watched him at Purdue, and I mean, the kid is a great football player. Once he gets his rhythm going, he's very hard to stop. I do remember him at Purdue having multiple 200-yard receiving games, so it's there for sure. And I think once he adjusts to the speed of the game, he'll be good. This is a guy who in camp really rarely drop passes, and I mean, in the game he had that one drop in the second preseason game, but for some odd reason, I don't think that's going to be something we see a lot of from that guy.
All right, this also from Doug Pondaly. Studs and duds from preseason week 3. Let's start out with the studs. We have Alex Wright, edge rusher, the rookie. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle. And then the aforementioned David Bell. Of those 3, all of them, you can't argue. They look pretty good week 3. Who kind of opened your eyes the most of those 3?
Actually, it was Alex Wright. I mean, when they drafted him, I was kind of like, wait, who is this guy? But watching him, especially in the final 2 preseason games, he does a great job of setting the edge and being able to come around and get pressure. So I think if Jadeveon goes down, because, Jadeveon is – we all know how Jadeveon is, I'll be okay with Alex Wright going in there and taking some reps. I think he earned that from his play in preseason this preseason.
How much did you like what you saw from Jordan Elliott? That's a position where there's some young guys that they're looking for somebody to step up, and he kind of showed up a couple of more than a few times he showed up.
He's going to be big. It's going to be big because if not, then teams is going to run dive and trap, and it's going to be a long day for the defense. But him coming in and being able to support the run and close up those gaps and not get kicked out of his gap, I mean, that was huge to see. Plus, he also got pressure in there a couple of times. If you can get that up the middle with those 2 guys, Jadeveon and Miles on the edge, man, it should be scary for these quarterbacks. So he actually got me kind of excited. I think this defensive line could become a strength of this team.
All right, here are the 3 duds that they have, and we've talked about them a little bit. Anthony Schwartz, obviously, got to hang on to the ball. They need that speed. Greedy Williams, defensive back, and then they go also with the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. and the quarter veteran, you've kind of alluded to it. Veteran quarterbacks get in and out of the huddle, don't get delay of games, and don't get hurt. That's really all you're looking for.
Yeah, for them to call him a dud, it's kind of funny to me because it's not like we got to see a whole lot. I mean, he did throw a couple of passes, but like I said, a lot of his passes, you just want to see him take the call. Can he facilitate? Can he run this offense? And I think he answered that question. I mean, they seemed all poised. He was able to get the ball out, and he was throwing a lot of catchable balls. So that's what you kind of want to see from a quarterback in the preseason game. It's not like he's a Deshaun or a Josh Dobbs where he makes it happen with his legs. This guy's not mobile like that. So for him to be able to be poised in that pocket and command that offense like he did, I am ready for week 1. I think he'll do just fine. For the rest of them, for Greedy, Greedy kind of shocked me a little bit in that last game because, he did give up that touchdown to Dante Pettis on that double move, but it's a guy that I think you're gonna see a lot of him because when they go nickel personnel, G New's going to the slot and he's gonna have to play that outside. If not, then it's gonna be Martin. And if that's the case, then this might be Greedy's last couple of years in Cleveland. So I think we'll definitely see a different side of Greedy this year because now he's playing for the money.
All right, before I let you go, getting ready to go into the week 1 of the regular season. What area of this team concerns you the most?
It's always going to be. It's the receivers. Everybody knows it's the receivers. Because outside of Amari Cooper now, Amari Cooper going to do what he do. He's going to be motivated. He understands that he's going to have to be the heart and soul of that unit. I mean, everybody's dependent on him. And when you need Amari, he typically shows up and has a great year. So I think he's going to have a big year. DPJ, I want to see him take the next step, but at this current moment, I haven't really seen it from him, and that's kind of shocking to me because of his body type and him having those couple of flashes. I just want to see it on a more consistent basis, so that kind of concerns me a little bit. And Anthony Schwartz, if he's going to be a part of this offense, he's going to have to find a way to catch the ball on a consistent basis. I don't know what he needs to do to get his confidence back. You do it in practice. If you do it in practice, it typically translates to the game. He has to get out of his own head and just go back to being naturally gifted and catching the football and making plays.
Tyvis Powell from the Browns Radio Network and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also take a little bit deeper look at the defense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Tyvis Powell from the Browns Radio Network and I continue talking Browns football. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns this year.
Hey, guys. I just skimmed through an article on NFL.com talking about the Dolphins' perfect season. There are some stunning similarities compared to what the looked like going into the season. Number one, the Dolphins lost their starting quarterback in Week 5 when Earl Morrall took over into the playoffs, having played on 5 teams prior. In our case, just the reverse. They had quite the three-headed running back attack. Sound familiar? They had a good to great O-line led by their veteran guard, Larry Little. They relied heavily on their defense, called the no-name defense. I like our defense, too. They had an up-and-coming young coach named Don Shula. Our coach is young and only going to get better. So I'm not saying we're going undefeated anytime soon, if ever, but the possibilities of this team making some noise is real. We have the talent. Do we have the right mindset? I believe so. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Tyvis, I like the similarities you drew. A little bit different NFL, though, in 1972. This one is geared towards passing a little bit more, which I think is what has everybody you're laughing because you're a defensive back. That's what has everybody concerned.
It's one of those things that, though, it's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, it's all you can win games effectively by running the ball, and that's what the Browns is going to have to do. Similar to last year when Baker was hurt, the reason that we had that, people are like, why did we continue to throw the ball all the time when Baker was hurt? Well, the problem was that the box was loaded. The defenses started putting 8 people in the box and forcing the quarterback to make these passes. And if you believe it or not, we was in a lot of games with the hurt quarterback. So I think now that we got a healthy Jacoby Brissett, if Kevin Stefanski calls it right, he will be in a lot of games this season. Jacoby Brissett is good enough to make those throws. So I'm not really concerned about it as much as everybody else is. But me being a defensive player, I will say that defense did and it still will win championships. And as long as this defense is healthy, it's their second year with all of those guys being together. You got a couple of young guys that need to step up at the defensive tackle position, but if they step up, man, it can be magical. They just need to hold teams to 21 points or under. If you can do that, which is tough in today's NFL, but if you can do that and you have the players in place to do that, you're talented enough. The defensive scheme is perfect because I played in that defensive scheme for many years. It can definitely get done, and you can give your offense a chance to win games if they can score 21 or better, which I think they're totally capable of doing.
All right, so NFL's top 100 players were announced over the weekend. Myles Garrett, and you knew he was going to be in the top 20. He was, in fact, 11, just outside of the top 10. All right, with Garrett, now we're kind of we're really nitpicking here. What ways can he get even better and get into that top 10, top 5, maybe even the top spot?
It's tough because he's elite. He up there. Well, I think the number one thing would be he has to stay healthy. I think once he had that, I think he had a groin injury last year. It kind of slowed him down a little bit. So if he stays healthy throughout the season, which is a tough ask in today's NFL, he will always be effective. He's going to need those defensive tackles and other guys to step up because if not, they're going to double team him all game, and it's going to be hard for him to be as effective as he can be. So I think really what he has to do is he really has to lean on the other guys to free up themselves and bring some pressure from the other side. That way defenses can say, you know what, we got to try it a couple of times where you got to leave our left tackle or a tight end one-on-one with Myles Garrett. And when he sees that, he has to take advantage of it every single time because it's not going to happen often.
All right. You mentioned you played in this type of scheme. What is Joe Woods preaching to these guys defensively and knowing that the defense needs to help out this offense, at least until Watson gets back?
Well, the number one thing is going to be takeaways. You have to find a way to get the ball back to your quarterback as much as you can. Because the more times Jacoby Brissett has that ball in his hand, the more confident he'll get. Obviously, he might have the jitters at the beginning of the season, but the more times you give him the ball, he'll get confident, he'll get comfortable in there, he'll start making these plays that he's supposed to make. Another thing would be tackling. Tackling has to be at a premium this season, especially in the secondary, because what teams is going to do is try to get the ball on the outside edge. So those corners is going to have to come up and be able to make plays in the run game, which a lot of corners don't really want to do, but in this defense, you're going to have to because that's a big play. So those two will be the two top things that I think he'll be preaching this year.
And you were a cornerback, correct? So you have some inside knowledge of what you speak of.
Yeah. Listen, I didn't mind getting up in there. You know, I like to get down there every now and then.
Tyvis, Powell, great stuff as always. Make sure you catch him on the Browns radio network all season long. Thanks very much, Tyvis. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me. Go Browns.
All right, Tyvis Powell from the Browns Radio Network. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyez on Cleveland podcast. We continue talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns' situation this season.
Dave, I again want to make the statement Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat, and here's my reasoning why. On paper, the Browns have a great roster, but the decisions Kevin Stefanski makes, especially in the first 11 games, will determine our season. Because of his stubbornness not to play starters in the preseason has led us to the dilemma at the quarterback position for the first 11 games. He is bound and determined to go with Jacoby Brissett, but the eye test has shown that Josh Dobbs has performed very well in the preseason. He has effectively moved the offense, and his ability to use his legs and run when needed has created positive efforts and feelings with the offense and defense, as well as the fan base. This is all needed for us to get 6 or 7 victories out of 11 before the return of Deshaun Watson. Stefanski, go with a 2-quarterback rotation. See who has the hot hand every game, and do whatever it takes to get the victory. My final statement is the Anthony Schwartz project is over. Release him and go with receivers who can catch the ball first.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Brad Ward, BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyez on Cleveland podcast. Love you to death, Ron. I don't think that Josh Dobbs should be the starting quarterback. Preseason is preseason. He certainly has earned the right to be the number 2. But you need a guy that's played, that is going to see the type of defenses. The defense that the preseason looks nothing at all like what's going on during the regular season. And I don't think – the other thing is I don't think Kevin Stefanski's on the hot seat whatsoever. I also would have – Kevin Stefanski and the front office kind of agree. It's not a – we're going to do it this way. They come to kind of an agreement. So I think everybody's on the same page as far as playing time in preseason.
Yeah, and it was a day-to-day thing they had to deal with through the Watson proceeding. So it's not really – can't really put that at the feet of Stefanski, in my opinion, Dave. To be honest, I think that they had to take it day by day. They had a plan for what they wanted to do, and when they got the opportunity to put Watson in a game, I think they had to take advantage of that. In the end – Jacoby Brissett ends up playing about a half of football, which is probably about what every other starting quarterback in the NFL played in the preseason. So I don't really think play time was neglected for the starting quarterback in this situation. I think he got what about everybody else got. And I think it didn't look great because they kind of had a distinct agenda when they went out there offensively, to get Schwartz the ball and feature him and try to get him some confidence. And they had some things they wanted to get accomplished. So it wasn't looking real fluid. But I think they got what they wanted to try to get done, right? They wanted to get Njoku the ball a little bit. They wanted to get Schwartz the ball. And for those reasons, I think the offense stalled a little bit. I think it'll look a lot more fluid when all the ones are out there. And I don't think it's necessarily stubbornness by Stefanski. I think it's actually kind of smart to keep your best players off the field in the preseason. Injuries will kill a team in the preseason.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind, Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin, who may not be ready. So half of your best players didn't play. So, and if you think that was a bad idea, how'd you feel when it looked like Grant Delpit might have been hurt and might miss some time, or Wyatt Teller? So preseason...
It's tough.
Yeah, preseason.
It's tough.
Everybody's excited to get games going. Preseason doesn't matter. That's 0-16. They were 4-0 just in the preseason. Just remember that.
Yep.
This is also kind of interesting. Reportedly, multiple NFL owners who did not want Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson suspended for the entire 2022 season, according to Peter King of NBC Sports, who spoke with one executive who felt owners reached out to Roger Goodell to express their desire for Watson to play this season. The reasoning, reportedly strategic rather than the stance on the issues. By suspending Watson for 11 games, NFL prevented the Browns from being able to toll Watson's contract over to the 2022 season. Maybe that's true. I don't think it matters. He's going to be their long-term quarterback. They're going to find a way to extend it and work as often as they need to keep the cap as flexible as they can. But I could see owners thinking that way without question.
No, I think they probably did speak up. As it says in the article there, if his contract would have told, you would have been looking at the Browns having Watson for an entire season and them moving their, small cap hit this year, where he's like a $1 million base, right, to next year, instead of carrying like a $44 million cap hit, which they have all this rollover cap ready to take on next year. Instead, they would have freed up a ton of cap space next season because he would only carry that $1 million base salary, and they would have him for the full season. So if you're an opposing owner or opposing GM, or they're, whoever's doing their salary cap, right? Their salary cap guy is going, hey, we don't really want him to get a whole season. If he's contract tolls, the Browns are going to be in a really, really good spot in 2023. So if I was an opposing owner, I kind of would have said the same thing. I mean, and we kind of said all along, 12 games kind of is the most punitive to the Browns organization as a whole, because, and they landed on 11, so his contract tolls, and they get him for the least amount in 2022. So they kind of quietly did what they wanted to do, right? They got the Browns where it hurts them the most.
Yeah, I would agree that was either by design. The end result is it hurt the Browns organization the most, the way that it ended up playing out.
Certainly.
So Jimmy Garoppolo likely to be released today, tomorrow, certainly before his $27 million guaranteed contract takes effect, which would be game one. It's the Saturday before the first week's games. Mike Tannenbaum, Dan Orlowski debate the benefits of the Browns potentially signing Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jacoby Brissett is a fine player, but for 11 games, you're one hit away from Josh Dobbs playing. And you're telling me Jimmy Garoppolo is not better than him? And if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you have to say to yourself, where's my best place to maximize my future? Cleveland's not San Francisco, but it's a good alternative.
Look, I don't mean to diminish Jacoby Brissett. He's been a good NFL player. Jimmy Garoppolo, for all the things he hasn't done,
yes,
he was 2 minutes from the Super Bowl last year, and he was in the Super Bowl 2 years or 3 years ago now. I get it. He's not Joe Montana. Sure. He's not the reason they were there, but he was good enough for them to get that far with. And the Browns, while they may not have some of the pieces you're talking about, are a talented football team.
Unquestionably. And Jimmy Garoppolo is a good player. The question becomes, if you're the Cleveland Browns, with the 11 games that are going to be missed by Deshaun Watson, do you still believe that you're a potential division winner playoff team that can go make a run? I don't think you are with him missing 11 games, no matter if it's Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett.
It's an interesting way to look at it, and I think the other way to look at it is, if you go get Jimmy Garoppolo, does he give you the ability to win a game or two that maybe Jacoby Brissett can't? That's kind of the way you have to. It's down to one or two wins may make the difference between being in the playoffs or not by the time Deshaun Watson comes back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of why, I have been a proponent of, hey, listen, earlier in that clip, I think earlier in the show they showed it, one of the things that Orlowski says is the cost, right? Well, if he gets cut, the cost changes immensely, right? So we're not talking about taking on a $25 million cap hit anymore. We're talking about an incentive-laden deal with a small base or whatever. And the Browns can appeal to him, he may not play 11 games if they brought him on at this point, but if you could get Brissett through the first 4 and then Garoppolo takes on the harder part of the schedule, if Brissett struggles or if Brissett plays well, then at least you have a better backup than Dobbs, who, although has played very good in the preseason, has no experience in the NFL regular season. So you're talking about trying to piece together the best way possible to get through these 11 games. And for me, if they really were going all in on 2022 and this is everything, then they would go after Garoppolo. I just don't know if that's their mindset at this point. I think he would be the difference in a couple games. I think he can push the ball down the field better. I think he does have a quicker release. I think he improves their passing game, which right now is a kind of a problem. Your wide receiver group and Brissett, I'm a little concerned, right, with what the passing game can do and what's going to be an overly powerful, high-scoring AFC in 2022, right? You're going to have to be able to keep up. You can't fall behind Brissett's never going to throw you back into a game, really, I don't think. So I think that Garoppolo does bring those advantages if he's healthy. So at least I would kick the tires on the situation and see what it would cost. That's kind of my feelings on it. I kind of agree with Mike Tannenbaum there more than I do Orlowski, because I think he does give you a chance to win a couple extra games out of 11. Now, do I think that the Browns front office feels that way? I don't think they agree with me. I don't think they do. I think they're content with Brissett.
We'll find out. If Garoppolo does in fact get cut, that'll tell you pretty much all you need to know if they go out and start talking to him. Brad Ward and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hello, Dave. I truly believe that we made a huge mistake letting Baker Mayfield go. I think he's going to come back and haunt us big time, especially our first game of the season. I don't know what the front office was thinking, but they screwed up royally.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, the Deshaun Watson move wasn't made for 1 year. The deal with Baker Mayfield, coaches get tied to starting quarterbacks. It was clear Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski, that wasn't going to work.
No, it wasn't. And, I think you guys hit on it too earlier in the show with Fred on, and he was talking about how the OBR staff was talking about how many open receivers were missed last year in Stefanski's play calling. And I think that was evident to a lot of people that really examined what was going on. And I think behind the scenes, there was some immaturity there. Obviously, there was a disconnect between your head coach, offensive coordinator, and your quarterback, and that can't really exist in a successful way at all in the NFL. So I don't think it was a mistake to move on. I do think that Watson will be your quarterback one, in the years to come, and he gives you a lot better chance to win games than Baker Mayfield does, in my opinion, or take you further. The ceiling is much higher with him.
Yeah, I would agree. And you mentioned offensive coordinator, quarterback, head coach. That speaks to alignment. The Browns have been big on Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski kind of being in alignment. So that's one of the reasons that they wanted to get that back together, and that's one of the things they like about Jacoby Brissett. He's going to go where he's supposed to go with the ball 90% of the time.
Yeah, I agree. They are in lockstep, right? The front office and Stefanski, since day one, they've preached it there in lockstep in moving towards the same goals. So, and you have to, Brissett's been there since the spring. He's been a part of this thing. He knows exactly what's expected of him. That's the benefit of having, a veteran like this who's been through it before and is mature and an adult in the room. So, and those were the words that they used often this offseason, right? We want an adult in the room. And I think they're talking about on the field, in the locker room, not so much off-field stuff, but when people kind of point that, out as being a thing with Watson, I think they're talking about in the locker room as a leader of the Browns on the field. So Brissett certainly is an adult in the room, and he does bring that experience, and he brings that lockstep all towards one direction mentality. So certainly that's something to like about what he brings to the field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I have no doubt Baker Mayfield will end up doing pretty well in Carolina. He'll be in the league for a while. I don't think he's going to fall off the face of the earth without question. Let me ask you this. Do you think the Browns make a trade? Do they try to acquire a wide receiver? Or do you think it's just going to be strictly kind of those guys that are cut to get down to 53?
To be honest, Dave, I think they'd be crazy not to add to this room at this point. Like, I just don't think it's good enough. Like, if you're not going to upgrade from what I consider an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett, and you're going to leave the wide receiver room as is, I don't think you're doing everything you can to win in 2022. Like, there are guys out there that are being cut today and will be cut tomorrow that are immediate upgrades over guys in this room and have more experience and bring more explosive ability to this offense, right? And so I think exploring Denzel Mims is your first and best option because he can be really good, and I think he could be an elite player. He's a 4.38 speed guy, 6'2" size. I mean, he's got it all. They showcased him on over the weekend to get him trade value up, and they did that because he looked spectacular. I think he would be option one. I think there's other guys out there that may get cut that you could trade for before they got cut so you can make sure they end up here. But I just think you need to do more for this passing game because the way I look at it right now, it's a little alarming just because of the way that the AFC is going to be this year, Dave. It's going to be a high scoring. You've got elite quarterbacks, elite receivers all over the schedule after the first 4 games. And I don't know if the Browns can keep up with that. I know that you could play complementary football and run the ball and win with defense. And the Browns certainly have a great running game and a great defense. But that's going to be a lot harder this year in this AFC than it has been in past seasons. So I would really try to add a receiver. I would. And whether through trade or just pick up on the waiver wire, I think they need to add somebody to that room.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Passing game needs to get upgraded. Brad Ward, BrownsWire.com, as well as the host of the All Eyez on Cleveland podcast. As always, good stuff. Appreciate it, Brad. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Dave. You're the best, man.
Have a good one. Brad Ward, make sure you catch him, host of the All Eyez on Cleveland podcast. You can read him on BrownsWire.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports4CLE.